I'm Dr. Jeff. I originally came from Connecticut, and then I went to USC, the University of Southern California, not the University of South Carolina. I did my undergrad in biomedical and mechanical engineering, my master's in biomedical engineering, and my PhD in neuroscience. Recently, I had to try to explain all that stuff to somebody. It does take a while. If you're wondering, because I probably dropped the biomedical engineering thing before, biomedical engineering, for anybody who is wondering, basically anything you see inside of a hospital as far as technology was developed by a biomedical engineer. So there's engineering for all types of different products and technology. And those are biomedical engineers. Other aspect of biomedical engineering, which makes a lot of sense, is we like reverse engineer the human body, right? So like figuring out the fluid flow dynamics of vessels or even of your lungs, the electric potential and how that runs in your muscles or in your brain. And it's important to be able to basically kind of like study both of those things hand in hand, because the technology that's going to interact with your body is going to need to know those engineering principles when it is interacting with your body. And then neuroscience is the study of the brain. Back in the day, when there were really no AI programs or majors or anything, the only place you would see AI being developed, and they didn't even really call it AI all the time back then, was in, say, a neuroscience department or a biomedical engineering department. Computer science, they would do that. Maybe a few of the other, like maybe in a chemistry department, they would do biochemistry or something of that nature. When I was in school for both my master's, my PhD thesis, I did them on computer vision and AI. And my thesis was mostly concerned with optic flow estimation for 3D world understanding. Essentially, optic flow is when you walk through the world or you drive through the world, there's all the movement that your visual cortex takes in. That is the optic flow. And you're able to interpret that in a very high level manner. It's kind of interesting to understand like how much work your brain is doing to understand vision. After that, when I graduated, nobody cared about AI. AI was not even, it was mostly a sci-fi concept, even though it was starting to trickle in various places. I did a lot of work in marketing, in sales, and operations. And then about 7 years ago, I got interested in AI again and started to work in AI and doing machine learning and computer vision. Computer vision, for anybody who's wondering, is any AI that works on imaging and video. I think is a really good way to explain it. So like face recognition is computer vision, right? And then recently, I guess like fairly recently, with the popularity and explosion of generative AI, I've started to really focus on that as a career path and an area of interest. I also do coaching calls like this and other upskilling workshops, things of that nature. What I found was when I was in school, if you were learning AI, you were, I mean, really learning like how to build a neural network from scratch, or like Bayesian modeling for neural processes. Now, essentially, everybody's going to need to know how to do AI, but not really that type of AI. It's the type of things that we're learning here, right? Like, how do you set up an n8n workflow? How do you prompt ChatGPT effectively? I feel like a lot of people in here are fairly good at prompting ChatGPT, but you have to realize, like, most people don't even know how to prompt ChatGPT. They don't realize how to leverage it. They either think it's a fad or it's like a thing that'll tell you jokes or whatever. But as you've seen in some of our previous coaching calls, you can leverage ChatGPT and other LLMs to do a lot for you. And then just an overview for today. So today we're going to continue with basically lead prospecting using vibe coding to, we already have our initial set of company leads from the last coaching call. What we're going to do is initially we're going to deduplicate that, because when we had Google Places API source all those leads for us, because of the way it was done, it got multiple versions of each one of those leads. So we're going to do a quick deduplication of it. Then we're going to do enrichment, where we're going to get email addresses and enrich that. Then we're going to have a script that is going to generate the emails for us. And then finally, I'm going to set up a script that is going to email things out using Mailgun. And you can use whatever emailing service you're interested in. You don't have to do Mailgun. Mailgun does have, for the first 30 days, you can use it for free, and it'll send out 50,000 emails for you. And so, like, a lot of our different workflows and processes that we talk about, I always feel like you need to be testing out each different version of things. You'll see that a little bit today, where there is a complete automated pipeline that you could do for this where you connect every different piece together. But at each step, we're going to take a little bit of a temperature of things, see how it goes. I might not keep on pushing it and pushing it. When I worked on this project originally, I did try to take each one of these things as far as possible. But here I'm going to just touch upon it and show you what's possible, and then we're going to move on. When we get to the Mailgun part, I am probably going to use some of my own email addresses initially just to prove proof of concept, which is what I suggest you do as well. If you are going to do something like this where you're using an automated emailer, highly, highly, highly suggest that you do not just start emailing out 50,000 emails all at once without testing it to see what it looks like and how it's going. Also, Mailgun is not going to let you send out 50,000 emails all at once. It will let you send out 100 per hour. And then, so that'll be another aspect of this where you'll see our initial one will just be set up to send out as many emails as possible. However, it's not that hard to, especially if you're using Claude or GPT or whoever to help you with this, to just tell it, hey, send each one of these messages one per, what's it, like 45 seconds, something like that. And then you'll stay underneath that 100 per hour limit. And then you just let it run in the background. I'm going to be working. So today I'm going to be using Claude Opus as my LLM developer buddy. And then I'm going to be working in VS Code as my IDE choice. You can use whatever you want. This is just kind of to go through the basic concepts and work some things out. On Friday, we're going to go over the top agent platforms that are free to use or freemium to use. And then I think that we're going to do that because when I was confirming with Vic, he said that he already had a class on that. And so maybe I do still think that we're going to do that. And then probably the week after, unless we get a very, very compelling choice, we're going to do a comparison between American AI models and their Chinese counterparts to see pluses, minus, performance differences, what you should choose and why. There are a variety of factors that go into that. And sometimes it is, whether or not you live in China or in America or what your VPN interest is to get some of these models. And then also, do you have, I know that for certain companies, they already have a policy that says that they're not allowed to use any Chinese models. Although I think that some of that, if you're not using API access, then it's an open source model. I do think that can be a little bit overblown and overstated as to why you wouldn't do that. So there's not much. It's not like they're full of viruses or anything like that. And then any questions before we start diving into our lead generation? You can throw them in the chat. You can turn on your microphone. Raising your hand is tough. I got a hand raised the other day and it's harder for me to see. Okay, we have Ninos here. It looks like we have 2 Ninos, maybe even more Ninos than that. And then we got Alan and Justin, Avery, of course. Georgetta's back for more. Victor coming in strong, and Sarita as well. All right, there we go. Yeah, you gotta get the thumbs up. And then for next Tuesday, so next week's coaching call, like this one. So we are going to do MCPs, 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 not MPCs. Sorry, I was thinking of what was that? That's in a video game thing, right? Where you have model context,
non-player character.
Yeah, so this would be, I don't even know, mono player character or something. And I looked into it. There is a very robust MCP for end-to-end development and for end-to-end building. And so we're going to go over that one. First, what we're going to do, just so that we can test out the concept of building your own MCP so you could do anything with it, we're going to do a very basic version of that same thing where we'll see that it will generate an N8N workflow for you. That's all right. Or maybe it'll just generate a node, but just so you can see, okay, like if I had to build an MCP from the ground up, this is how I would start. And then we'll test drive the one that is already pre-built and is on GitHub. That one's going to be, essentially, we're just going to do an install and then see how it goes. Again, for all of these, you are going to need some sort of IDE. VS Code is a perfectly fine choice. These are free to use, and you can deck them out with all kinds of AI help if you're looking for it. But that should be really interesting. And I haven't test driven the GitHub version, fully built out MCP yet. But when you look at what it is stating, I would suggest if you are trying to do end-to-end workflows, that this could be a really good solution for you. What we're always looking for is a way to go faster, right? And so with an MCP like this, it would be able to, you could take one of, say, Julian's workflows, one of our AI profit boardroom workflows, and then it would be able to update it for you, make changes, combine two of them together, things like that. And so I think that this could be really powerful and really useful. When I am going to show you how to do it, it is going to be based on Claude Desktop. Again, like that's my choice of LLM when I'm doing this type of stuff, this type of thing. But the cool thing about MCPs is that theoretically you should be able to transfer it from one to another to any one of these LLMs. And that is the protocol aspect of it, where it is supposed to be interchangeable, a bit of a plug and play, so that if you want to switch over to some other way of doing it, I think there's a cursor version of this. I think there is an OpenAI version that you can connect to. More and more different probably services and companies are going to start to have MCP integrations into them. And so the cool thing is that this will transfer over to those. As long as you have something that connects to N8N, then from there you can connect anything else to it. But I do think that using Claude as your brain and these as your tools is going to be your best bet. Okay, let me get things more or less set up. All right. Okay. And then, all right, let me share screen. Cool. And try to get everything going. You might see how crazy my screen is right now. I got a lot going on. Make sure it's not terrible. Okay. All right. Oh, and then also when you are doing these MCP things, if you are going to use Claude Desktop to do it, one of the things that I found pretty quickly, and I do this typically, is I would use Opus instead of Sonnet. I tried it out with Sonnet for a bit, and I was like, it's okay. Oh, this is cool. And then I switched over to Opus. I was like, even cooler, which does make a lot of sense. Okay. So let's see here. Coding projects, AI profit. All right. And then here, oh, I don't want that. Here we go. Okay. I generated this list of companies from Google API places, but it's get create that will be okay. I'm pretty sure. Let me just verify that. Yeah. So as you can see, hopefully everyone's paying attention to this. When originally it pulled out these companies, and again, these are IT and clean tech companies. I'm working with a program that will do free AI upskilling and training for IT and green tech companies in California. They can do up to 100 hours of free training. And so this project was originally started for that. And so I'm just following along with that right now. All right. And so, yeah, this is one of these things again, where when you're doing these workflows, this is part of the reason why you don't want to just put everything together and do it at once, right? If I were to ask Claude, GPT, anybody, put this all together for me, I probably would, right? Put all these steps together for me and make one continuous workflow. But then if you're not testing and sampling and seeing what's going on, using your own human brain to figure these things out, you'll run into a problem like this, right? Where it generated all of these company leads. Great. I love that. I think there's let's take a look. It pulled out pretty, like, without me doing much, 1,800 leads, right? 1,800 different companies. But you can see it here. I always suggest visual inspection of the information that you're, like, the data that you're working with. And this is just a good idea. I know it seems boring or lame or whatever, but, or like, why do I have to do that? I thought AI was going to do it. This is also why we're still needed, because AI generated this script that pulled all these companies from the internet for me, but was not smart enough to think, oh, I should do deduplication. What are you doing? Okay, so I've noticed that it's doing this sometimes. Where's my script? I figured to dedupe this. Where's script? Looks like you just put on the artifact. This freaking thing. Oh, didn't look like the yeah, so I just kind of going through some of the little bugs and issues you might run into. If I need to, I can just pull in. I have a deduplication script that it did for me previously. Yeah, and so this is something I've been running into, and maybe it's like you should try to do. Usually, it's fine. I feel like, but one of the things I've noticed lately, and I don't know why it's happening. One is that, like, see, this is what's called the artifact viewer, what we have on the right side of the screen here, and it's an artifact no matter what, once it starts creating sort of like this code in a file. And if you just ask it to do an artifact, then it'll do it within the chat, which is not as useful, right? Because then you get this very long message in the chat, or there's this long file in the chat that's like not really useful. Not that it's not useful. It's just hard if it does, like, say, 5 files in a row. You have to, like, scroll and find it. And so I will ask it to at times put things in the artifact viewer. It should, hopefully always do things in the artifact viewer, but, like, should is a problem. All right, let's see. This is our deduplication. So it's interesting. It wants me to do all of these things for deduplication. In the first version that I did of this, it did not want this. And this just kind of goes to show that this thing can do whatever it wants sometimes, but we'll do. So we're pip installing. Oops. I do have my virtual environment going, and here I will grab this deduplication script, copy, and we want to paste, and we'll call it deduplicate companies, create number for it. And then I'm going to start asking it to go on to the next word. Okay, know that I have this deduplicated, write a script that will scrape company websites or email addresses and enrich the data with information that would be useful when doing an outreach campaign about upskilling their workers, their employees, to learn about it on AI. All right. Just so I can get it up and going on that while we do this. Save as. And so, looking at companies, yes, Python, and then we'll see how many errors I get this first time. Oh, okay. And it's out and it's merging. Great. All right. So now we went from, that's very round number, that 500, which I'm not super happy about, but you never know. Maybe that is just right. But it does look like they have been deduplicated. We don't see that same number of, let's see, these are some of the original ones. Yeah, and it's interesting how it went. I don't know. It's okay. Yeah, huh. S or okay, P. Okay, it just sort of switched that. Yeah, I guess it did use an interesting sort of, 'cause it's no longer in alphabetical order the way it was before, which doesn't really matter. But cool, now we've deduplicated, right? And so this is a good step if you're going to be pulling out raw information. Pretty simple. And then again, next step, we are going to do website scraper company out enrichment. So this is probably going to need me to install some new website scraper. What is it doing? It can't be analyze it for. That might be a good idea. No, this is the worst complicated. Right. Okay, yeah, yeah. And so I've had to do this before as well. The good thing here, so let's get it to start scraping, just so we can start talking about it and find out what kind of problems it's gonna have. Although I have a feeling it's gonna need to get beautiful soup. Let's see who else. Let me start the pip install on beautiful soup. Oh wait, I'll wait for it to give me the what you call it. It's probably case does matter here, so that's always an issue. I forget what the casing is supposed to be. What do enrich companies.py. Oh, let's say that as when I did all of these originally, there weren't very many errors. This is not like, oh man, when I do the Gen AI stuff, it's a nightmare. Usually it is all dependency problems. This is going to do, there you go. Okay, so it is wilding out today. So yeah, I do think that like, while you're doing something like this where you're vibe coding and you're having AI help you with everything, right? It is imperative on you to give feedback, to test all this stuff out, to not let it just do what it's going to do. I'm going to, once this finishes coding, and let's see what it does, because is it doing both the enrichment and the scoring at the same time? No, okay. Stop doing this. You keep writing over files on article. You are instead of now you just read me instead of the actual file. Stop doing. Also, let me do. All right, that way I can at least start to install dependencies. I'll check in for some comments and questions, and then, yeah, better. Okay, there we go. Beautiful soup 4. Okay. Enrich companies, which I think I already have that one. Yes, I do. So here, you might be able to just do that. Get up and going. Okay. Then pip, or not pip install Python. You always use Python. For Macs, it might be something a little bit different. Linux, God only knows. Let's see. So if this starts running, it's going to take a little bit of time. Ooh, failed to fetch. All right. Stop. This is really bad. Wonder why it's failing to fetch so many. All right. Status. There we go. Okay. All right. Whoa. So yeah, and it's again, like it's sort of a common-ish issue that I'll run into when I'm doing this, where it'll try a strategy and that strategy won't be like that great, or it's going to, yeah, here we go. There we go. And so I think this is going to be a better approach, right? And like, again, like you can just use sort of logic where it's going to tell you something like this, where it's like, well, I was running into all these errors because I kept trying a bunch of pages that don't exist. And it's like, well, is that the best approach? Do you have to try a bunch of pages that don't exist? I don't know about that, right? How about another approach that doesn't do that? Okay, and then here, maybe I'll spend a little bit of time. We can go through Mailgun while this is, and especially when it starts to do its enrichment. So it's going to take a bit of time. Really quickly, I am going to check in. Any comments, any questions? Is this a silly question? Is that Python? It is Python. Yes. It's not. Oh, look at how crazy that looks. It's not super silly, but the big sort of tip that this was Python, and maybe, this is when I was typing Python, and then something would happen, right? Yeah, I know. Right? I think it's only getting trippier, right? You can see it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. I don't know why it's doing it this time. It doesn't typically do that. But here, let's take a look at this. All right, and then here is Mailgun, right? And so mailgun.com, you need to get an account. If you want to use this, you can use whatever account you want. Statistic Machine is the company that I use, and that's where my email addresses are coming from. And then just to, and you can get a free account. You need to get an API key from here, and you're going to use that. Essentially, you'll just set that in your ENV, right? And so you have this ENV file here. I'm not going to click on it because it has my ENV information. So just do this. It's .env. When you try to save this file, put no extension. So it's going to be like, this is a Python file. It's a JavaScript file. It's a no kind of file, essentially. And then the actual name is .env. And that's where you'll store your API keys in there. And then let me show you a couple of other domains. Inspect. Main setting. Preferences. DNS records. Okay. So this is very important. When you're doing something like this, if you want this to show up the best way possible, you are going to need to update these two, the sending records and your tracking record are the best. The receiving record you could do as well, but it's not as big of a deal because it's what you're receiving. I don't know if you can do this. I haven't tried it with Gmail, but if you have your own hosting service, right? You have your own website, right? You have your domain.com, mydomain.com, whatever it is. You are going to have a DNS record. When I did this, there's the different types of DNS records you can update. There's text, there's CNAME. I wonder if I can just go into mine and show you real quick. Let's see. Bluehost is who I use. Bluehost. I think there's nothing terrible on here. It's going to take a minute for it to let me log in. And then also let me go back and see if we have anything more going on over here yet. Robust website. Okay. Let's get this running. Seeing if we can get anything better. I might not let this go. Just want to make sure it doesn't. Yeah, it's doing way better now. So it's processing this first batch through up. And so it's going to go through and we'll check on this in a minute. It's basically just, let's see. Uh-oh. Is that good or bad? This doesn't look good at all. All right. Oh, okay. No, it is finding stuff. Okay. But I am going to check. I'm going to throw this in to see what's going on here. Make sure Claude is aware. Issues. And then here. Can I log in yet? There we go. So this could be different. Like this is Bluehost. You might have whoever, but the general concept is going to be the same. Yep. Be alone. All right. And domains. Statistics machine. And then DNS, right? Those things. DNS. And then you can add a record, right? So it's multiple records for one of the record type, right? So then these different record types. So we're going to do a text one and then we're going to do a CNAME one. I'm not going to actually add records because already it refers to, so it's going to be other hosts and then host name. So just to show you this really quickly, and then you'll probably be able to figure it out from there. So the other host, it's going to be this part here is the other aspect of your host name. And then the same thing for the other host, it's going to be this here. And again, if you're having issues with figuring this out, if you forgot what to do, just ask GPT, ask Claude what's going on. It will explain this all to you. And just say, hey, I'm doing this, and then I'm getting this, and that's what's going on. And then this is the actual DNS record. You would just copy this from here, drop it in here. You want to reduce this down to 15 minutes initially. That just means that way it takes time to propagate to get this going. And so that way it will do what you're looking for faster. Here, let me check back over here. Okay. Great. Either way, it is grabbing these companies now. If you ever want to stop, Control C. All right. And then we're going to update this to see if it's any better this time. And then once it's working, I already have an enriched list I kind of like one of those chefs, just has everything already. So see if it does a little bit better this time. That's already processed, right? So this is good. This is something you might want to put in here. Tell it to, in your script, it should start, if it's already enriched some files, to just start where it went before. So it has this enriched partial. So we could just start with this, right? Because this is enough companies here, and then does it have email addresses in here anywhere for us to use? If not, it's not very useful. It's not going to be able to pull email addresses for every company. Not every company has. There we go. Okay. So we are getting some email addresses on here. So there is something to be used here. And then this is just going to continue and build up more and keep running into issues of some sort. So it is having some problems. You just have to keep on going. All right. See if we can get this. All right. It's going to be thinking that thing out. How much trippiness are we getting? Infinite trippy. Okay, but then once you've set up your Mailgun and you have your API key, we will, I'll show you, and then I will have it just do a simple test. I'm gonna have it send something to myself, and then you can just have it run through. I guess it's just excellent results. Your enrichment work where you're finding lots of emails and they ask what's approved. Okay, so it's just having warnings in it, which isn't a big deal. I'll let it finish this up, and then from there, I'll do the email generator. I'll give it a sample of the enriched data and ask it to do email generation. Now, one thing, especially if you're using something like this. So another option besides using Google Places API, which will give you some free usage, is using something like Apollo. And Apollo is pretty good. It will get you actual people's email addresses. You are going to have to, you're going to have to pay for the, you can test it out. You'll be able to get like some email addresses on their free version, but really I would suggest if you're really looking to do lead gen, pay the $49 or $69 or $99 a month. I think they have different tiers, maybe 79 was the other one. And you can get actual email addresses. You'll also be able to connect to that through API. If you do the free version, you cannot do API connection. So you can't scrape, or not scrape, but like pull a lot of information that way. And with that one, it's going to give you the person's actual name and their email address, which is going to be a little bit easier for an email formatter. So one of the things you'll see that came up the first time I did this, when I asked it to generate emails based on my enriched data, was that some of the email addresses were like info or hello or something like that. And so it would be like, hi, hello, or hi, info. And that's part of the reason why I had it generate a bunch of these emails first, just to take a look at what it's doing. And then from there, it's again, inspect on what's going on, see like, oh, that's going to generate a bunch of bad email addresses or emails for me. Let me get that switched up and we'll go from there. Okay. So then this is a new enrichment script. This is running and it is enriching and we're getting more, right? So boom, boom, boom. It's adding more each time. And okay. So I'm going to have it start on this enrichment script here. Robust checkpoint. Here is our partial. As you can see, we are some, which is great. Let's create an email generator that will generate email based on this enriched data and our history. Also, show me, but first, what a simple email would look like. I could provide. So I think this is a good idea. Like, let's see what it does. It might be stupid first. Are you going to show me a sample email? Again, another good, like, when we're doing all this, here we go. Yes, perfect. Okay. So now, again, this is going to do potentially the stupid thing, right? Because it's like to HR at company, right, .com. And so high contact name. The contact name it has is HR. So if it were to actually generate it, it wouldn't be that good. So I'm going to point this out to it now. If you notice, the email addresses have generic or position like HR or info saying hi, HR doesn't. So let's greeting or generic. And then if you had other things in here you wanted to change, and then like your name, if it's going to be your same name, my name is Dr. Jeff. So if societal, and I would believe this to be robust enough. Robust is a pretty good word, catch up for a lot of these things. To be able to involve when some of the rich data isn't real data is already who is it now? Should always be available, but maybe not. Then they create the email. All right. So I would actually, if I didn't need to just like, breeze through a lot of this stuff, I would spend a little bit more time going back and forth with it on the email generation to make sure that before I ask it to create the email generator, like this script right here, that I saw email examples that I thought were great, right? That it's like, okay, like that's an actual email that I want. And let me see. Are there any questions or comments? Hopefully this is useful for somebody somewhere, somehow, and I'm going over useful topics, but the trippiness is real. That's probably the most important part of this whole call. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you're trying to set up an outreach campaign, you can do this. And then aspects of this can be done through Mailgun, right? Like Mailgun does have automations in it to allow you to do some of this stuff, but, you could do it all from your own system. For some of these things, like, so like Apollo also has functionality in it, but I think can get charged, like they'll take away some of your credits or something to do a bunch of this work in Apollo, for instance, right? So if you're using that type of system, you can circumvent it all by just doing this. This also could be a good way for you to like get started and like test all this stuff out, verify that it works. And then all of these companies are just doing something that potentially you could also have Claude vibe code out for you. And maybe you don't even need Mailgun after a while, right?
Benefit rollbacks under the new law. Employees employed your benefits now before any change.
All right. And this,
From
do this.
have Medicare
I'm going to probably stop.
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
qualified.
Who is that? There we go. Okay. All right. Then this, you already copy and paste the good. Okay, generate outreach emails. So copy path. Sometimes I use this, especially when I have something like this. Should make this for the companies. Sometimes it has issues with this type of thing. And then again, like when it tells me that, and this comes up a bunch of times, it'll write something and it'll be like, oh, we can't find it. I will just do right click, copy path, and be like, look, it exists. And that way it has a direct understanding where the path is. And then great. And then I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. I have a Mailgun account. with my API key stored in my BNB. Create a script that will send a test email to feed.com with generating. And then where was that? Okay. Let's do it right here. Cool. Then we're going to run out of time pretty soon, but that's the general flow, right? Is that you're going to we're gonna have to do this pip install for requests. Hey, I don't want that. Hey, yeah. Let's email sender script. Yep. I just gotta do that over again. Cool. So that it generated outreach emails, and then stop share for a second. Well, I guess I haven't done it. Okay. That's probably a little bit easier there. Anyway, so that is once you get the Mailgun set up. You can also do, well, what I had was a config file, a JSON config file that had my email address, my name, my API keys in it, and then it just read from that config file. If anybody has any questions for that, I can let you know. But essentially, that's all you need to do is then you have an email generator and take the next step, test out and make sure that Mailgun will send out one email to an email address that works for you. And then you just have it loaded all the email addresses. Would it make sense to integrate a vertical tool like hunter.io in this workflow? That verifies email addresses. So I will potentially, I would also, because that'll verify the email addresses, right? I do think that there could be some value in that. You'd have to look at like the value props there, right? Where if you're getting finds, enhances, and verifies emails, right? Again, like that's what Apollo will do as well. There are different companies that will do it. And so I think Apollo, I feel like Hunter, I can't tell if Hunter is more expensive or less. We could do maybe. So I think you get like thousands for Apollo for like $50. And so what is the hunter.io pricing? Really quick. $61 and you get 1,000 search credits. I think Apollo is probably maybe better, at least pricing wise, but you'd have to evaluate them yourself and see what you like. I do think, like, again, if you're testing this out, right, and this is something where you're really trying to get business and you're spending money anyway, trying out Apollo for $50 to $80, right, and then trying out Hunter for $60 or something like that is not a big amount of money, right? And if this is actually going to get you new clients for your business, then it's worth it, right? And so all you need is really those subscriptions, right? And in that case, those will pull the email addresses for you. It could automate a lot of this for you instead, if you wanted to. But again, like I think that you have to pay for aspects of what we just did, where you could use your GPT or your Claude subscription to automate a bunch of this, to keep more of the information on hand, to be able to do like larger, more customization than you could do there. And then just use those to find the email addresses for you. And so you could do something again where it's like you get all of your email addresses better, more like people's actual name in the email addresses that go directly to people, get their websites, and then use the company enrichment tool that we just did to enrich the information. So then you have all that, and then to do all the email sending with a cheaper solution. And a lot of those companies that will find you the email addresses are going to charge you, I think, more to do it. So there you have a lot of options here, but essentially just try to demystify a lot of this. Is this model only for B2C? This model is really for B2B, right? I'm looking for businesses on this. This is not for customers. You'd have to use something different, right? You want to do this for B2B. I'd like to know what Zoom call is better suited for beginners. Question specific for their business. Well, you can also, Avery, you can On Mondays, we do Q&A. So you can always ask questions there that are more specific to your business. At the beginning of every call, I always ask people if they have questions, and that is a perfect time for you to just ask questions about your specific business. All right, time is up. We're going to do agents on Friday, and then next Tuesday is going to be MCP and not MPC or not NPC or any of the other PCs. All right, have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.